ourselves, we lose time, and the gap widens. We have rigorous profitability and price controls in this industry. We think that 10% is an acceptable level of profitability for this industry. Internationally, this industry has an average profitability of something like 35 to 40% after spending 15 to 20% on research. That's the sort of level of profitability comparison. We have limited availability of what Dr. Mashelka calls vitamin M, funding. Where is the money going to come from for research? We have lack of patent protection. We had 10 years transition time. 5 years of that have already been wasted in just debating, discussing. We now have something like the first bash at a total comprehensive patent amendment bill. We still don't know when it will actually be passed and become law. And we have a lack of will to innovate. Because of a system which has encouraged copying, has allowed people not to innovate and yet make money, there's no desire to innovate. So we really have to change mindset in this area. The other great complexity which I think is going to come to the pharmaceutical industry is e-business. And I think it's going to be a subset of e-business, probably something which I would call e-pharma. And what is e-pharma going to do? First of all, of course, medicines could be bought on the net and markets might disappear. And that's e-commerce. Of course, these will have to be regulated. Already the problems have started appearing in the US. President Clinton says he's going to bring in controls not to allow people to start selling medicines on the net. But of course, if there is proper prescription control, doctors are recommending the medicine, there will be e-commerce. E-telemedicine. Today a doctor doesn't need to meet a patient face-to-face. All patient information will be transmitted by wire. I have seen demonstrations of X-rays transmitted through computers where not only the fracture can be seen from one angle, the entire joint can be rotated on the computer, so the doctor actually knows 360 degrees the extent of the fracture. That's the power of telemedicine. We'll have connected doctors. Doctors will work in syndicates. There will be groups of doctors who can work together. They will manage patient databases. A man can be in any part of the world, as long as he visits a doctor who's connected to another doctor he's been consulting, he can go and use that doctor. There will be electronic medical records, probably the size of a credit card. You'll be able to carry a little credit card in your pocket, which will have your entire electronic medical record. You'll have mobile monitoring devices that are now, you wouldn't believe it, clothing like vests, which are connected via satellite to monitors. So at any time of the day or night, the monitor can keep a track of your blood pressure, your other hygiene conditions, and you can be tracked through your clothing. And then of course you'll have nanocomputers implanted into your body, which will release drug in a sustained release fashion over a number of months, maybe years also, and you won't have to take daily doses of products. So challenging of managing our transition to e-pharma, I don't think it's such a great problem. Sometimes I find that a late entrant catapults, leapfrogs, and can probably build on strengths. We've already got strengths in the IT sector, and these I don't see are great problems for us. I think the problems for us are going to be the problems of mass connectivity in the country, the problems of high cost, because relative to our income levels, electronic equipment is still expensive, and I think a big problem, with due apologies to Devinder, is going to be English. Really, computers around the world are talking more and more with each other in one language, and that's English. We can have translations, but it slows down the works, and with a multitude of languages, we're going to have a problem in this area. Consolidation and alliances. This industry is consolidating like none other. We have literally one big merger a month. Everybody waits for the next one to happen. We have over 3,000 alliances a year in this industry. These are not necessarily with a change of ownership. 40% of these alliances are in research, and 75% of those 40% are in biotech. And the total value of alliances in this industry exceeds something like $4 billion without ownership change. What are the challenges of international consolidation on us? The gaps in scale and size will keep increasing. We have an insignificant share today of R&D alliances. As and when research happens to a greater extent in the country, then of course we will have a bigger share of these alliances. And, sorry, spelling mistake there, most of our Indian pharma companies are family owned and family run. So there is a vulnerability there. The other big change that is taking place in the pharma world outside is the power of the consumer and the influences of choice. And it's not probably just in pharmaceuticals. You saw what happened in Seattle. It's the power of the individual, the power of activist groups, which is really now dominating world policy. Just to give you an idea today, that in the US, 89% of US doctors confirm that when they see patients, they've already consulted the internet about their diseases. 22 million patients last year accessed the US health sites in 1998. And of course, there are other influences of choice. In the US, health management organization, pharmacists play a role. And of course, internet portals and e-pharmacies. Once these start putting information on the net, a lot of influence will be there on prescription habits of doctors and self-medication by patients. So what are the challenges for us? We can't underestimate this, but it's not such a large problem because A, I think the low level of literacy in the country, how many people in this country will get connected? What's our culture? I think we still have a very respect-oriented culture. I think most of our people, when they go to a doctor, they respect their doctors, they would not challenge them, they would consult them rather than challenge their decisions and argue with them. Another big challenge for the pharmaceutical industry is government interference, and we are no novices to this. Pricing and reimbursement decisions. In the UK now they have a body called NICE, which sits in judgment over which products should be prescribed, what products should be reimbursed. We have patent issues in which governments are getting involved. There are political statements made by leaders of countries. And we have registration hurdles placed by governments to slow down the works. As I said, this is clearly our greatest challenge. We have a government which has an inability to let go and get out of the way and let people manage their businesses. We have frequent changes of government. Our electoral system and the primacy of populist policies slows down things. And here in this area, I think we can teach the world of thinking or two. The last, and I think the biggest challenge for this industry is what it's going to do to medicine. Both the previous speakers referred to this, and that I feel is genomics. When we actually write the book of life again, which is mapping of the human genome, 3 billion pairs of nucleotides in human DNA will actually be logged and mapped for the first time in history. And this is going to happen by around the year 2002, 2003. The project is going ahead of schedule. And by 2002, 2003, the entire human DNA chain will be mapped. And along with this mapping is the rush to identify what is known as single nucleotide polymorphisms, which distinguish people from each other. Men can be classified by phenotype, like their appearance, or they can be classified by genotype. And what is happening today is that we'll have a classification of individuals by genotype. We've already got now the first of the 23 chromosomes fully mapped. This means that doctors or the research scientists now know what defective gene in that particular chromosome sequence causes diseases like schizophrenia, a certain type of nerve in breast cancer, cleft palates, and some heart ailments. So really, the first chapter of the book of life has already been written. And when all 23 chromosomes are locked up, you'll have a tremendous effect on medicine generally. There will be an explosion in the number of known drug targets. Today we attack about 400 to 500 drug targets. After the book of life is written, you might be attacking 15 to 20,000 drug targets. You'll have personalized medicine, treating people based on their genotypes. You can avoid side effects. You can have preventative medicine, intervene before a disease takes place. And I think we'll have to forget controversies about genetically modified foods. We'll soon have genetically modified human beings. The challenges of genomics for us in India are we're late entrants, and that the power of this knowledge is unimaginable. Harnessing this power for our good would have tremendous potential for a country like us. Now quickly to look at opportunities, and the best way to look at them is to look at our strengths, our weaknesses, and I'm changing the sequence, taking threats first and then coming to opportunities. Our strengths are, we have a mature industry, we have strengths in innovative process chemistry, we have abundance of raw talent, we have an entrepreneurial spirit, highly talented and skilled Indians working abroad. I think it's a huge strength for us because today with geographical boundaries becoming meaningless and internet connectivity, you don't have to actually relocate these people back to India. If you can network with them, there's a tremendous potential there. We have a low cost of manpower, and we have born entrepreneurs in this country with a street fighter mentality. I think all our Indian industrialists have come up the hard way. They fought their way through adversity, difficulties, and I feel the street fighter mentality which we have will stand us in very good stead in the years ahead. We have lack of funding and resources. We have lack of opportunity in scientific challenge. A lot of our people go abroad, post-qualification, they want to work abroad, they don't come back to India. We have a low profile of the high quality work actually being done. We don't talk enough about our achievements. We have lack of intellectual property rights, which is a big hurdle. We have inadequate networking and internet connectivity today, poor infrastructure for research, and an inadequate regulatory framework. Of course, the low prices and profitability of the industry I already talked about, this certainly inhibits innovation. The threats are we have to continuously keep up with rapidly changing technologies, and time runs against us. We have high costs of automation of drug discovery, and we have our own protectionist policies. And if we keep protecting our industry, we will finally isolate the country, and we won't be part of the world movement to get onto the knowledge bandwagon. But still saying all this, I think the opportunities are the rising costs of research abroad, where we can capitalize on our low cost and high skill base. We have access to huge patient databases in this country. India is called a living laboratory. You can recruit patients for a clinical trial literally overnight. In some countries in the West, it takes almost a year just to recruit the patients. WTO and globalization gives us access to world markets, which will be more profitable than domestic markets. And that's the biggest opportunity we have today. We have early wins. We have Reddy's, Ranbaxy, Shanta Biotech successes to think about. We have a large MNC presence in India, so that brings us source of funds, technologies, and potential alliances. And less capital-intensive fields like biotechnology, immunology, and genetics, I think, are huge opportunities for us. So now let's look at the future. And can we really create our own future in the years ahead? If you look at globalization, we have obviously three paths in all these options. There's one opening up the economy, one is to protect the economy, and one is a bit of both. And today we are still probably regarded as one of the most closed economies in the world. When the last World Economic Forum's report came out on global competitiveness, I think we won from the bottom in terms of openness of the economy. We're probably still regarded as about 98% controlled and not an open economy. Perhaps we'll move up, and maybe 10 years from now, I think we'll be around 75-25. I don't see the country with its political compulsions and, as I said, the need to make politically prudent statements. This country will ever open up fully. We have to live with some amount of protectionism, but it is certainly better than what it is today. Will we innovate or will we copy? Today, we are still very low on the scale of innovation. Perhaps we'll move up from about 98-99% copying to about 85% and 15% will be 10 years from now, I'm saying. Because if you look at patent laws, they will change by around year 2005, and before they start taking effect, it will be another 7 to 8 years of very gradual movement. So really by 2010, maybe we'll be about 85-15. Will we get connected or will we be traditional dads? I think here we have a good chance and we'll probably be 60% connected. I see IT driving a lot of the changes in the country, and 10 years from now I think we'll be one of the connected countries of the world. Will we consolidate? Like, will the world have just 50 large pharmaceutical companies? Will we have 50 large pharmaceutical companies, or will we replicate? And I think, looking at the current trends, although there is some consolidation, there's still a huge field in this market. People enter every day, and I think we'll have probably a large number of players also. I don't see a great shift in this area. It will still be a bit of both, and I would say probably 80-20, more in favor of small industry. How important will consumers be? Again, as I said, the big problem in India is the huge numbers we have are not all connected, they're not all literate, they're not all educated, they don't all speak the same language. There will be a shift, but it will be insignificant. And how important will the government be? Will it be laissez-faire or will it be interventionist? I don't think in the next 10 years I see the government completely moving away to laissez-faire. It will still be quite a controlled economy, but perhaps it will be probably 90-10. And finally, genomics. Will we have genetically modified human beings, or will we be vegetarians in the genomic field, vegenomics? And I think probably this is $1 million question. I can't answer that today. I'd like to end this one with a question mark. Maybe everyone will have their own views. But all said and done, I think time is the most critical thing for us today. And one of the things we never seem to realize in India is the value of time and the speed, the competitive advantage that speed gives you. So I'd like to conclude with a little saying, which is called the African dawn. And it goes like this. When the sun rises tomorrow, the gazelle awakes and knows it must run faster than the fastest lion, otherwise it will be eaten. When the sun rises tomorrow, the lion awakes and knows it must run faster than the slowest gazelle, otherwise it will remain hungry. When the sun rises tomorrow, it does not matter whether you are a lion or a gazelle, you'd better be running. Thank you.
I have a lot of fun with the English language. The other day, last year, sometime in October, I was attending a small farmer convention in a business school, and I had the opportunity to stand with a medical representative and an MR and a doctor. There was just a small question which popped up. It said, you're looking at so many drug areas and looking at so many diseases and ailments. What have you done about the cold, the common cold? More than half of us here today are having a problem with the common cold. So the gentleman who was a doctor, he just laughed. He said, the common cold is a very simple equation. It's not a problem at all. So like, why? It's like if you have medicines, it stays for 7 days, else it goes in a week. So it's the same. And talking about oxymorons, so what's common about the common cold? More than 90 to 95 times, whenever we have a cold, it's a different virus. Throughout our lives, we have more than 209 to 250 different types of viruses which affect us with the common cold. So chances are the next time I have a cold, it's not going to be the same virus at all. And even then, we call it a common cold. I invite Mr. S.N. Brahma, the Group President of Pharma Business and Technology, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really privileged to have with me the distinguished personalities of today's morning. It's like a dream coming true. It reminds me of the college days when I was organizing a big youth festival at Odisha. And this reminds me of the day and when I'm organizing such a big seminar. I'm really pleased to have with me Mr. Dilip Mehta, President AIOCD, Mr. Nayan Patel, President PAMDA, Mr. Ajit Singh, Chairman Associated Capsules Group, also the convener of the organizing committee. And of course I cannot forget the chief guest of this morning, the chair of the Mandi of Glaxo Welcome, Mr. Omiyar Khusro Khan. And the inspiration and my support and cooperation which I derived, the chairman of the symposium, Mr. Devinder Pal, and the Deputy Drug Controller of India, Dr. Venkatesh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to call upon all the distinguished personalities of today. I'm really pleased. If I don't speak about anything about pharma business and technology, I'll be doing injustice to my profession, being a journalist. Let me tell you, when pharma business and technology was launched in November 1997, I was really finding a vacuum in the pharmaceutical industry. Whereas there is the interaction among us, the pharmaceutical industry, the retail trade, the technology, the latest developments of the pharmaceutical industry was not at all coming. We had monthly, we had weekly, we had everything. But what about the recent topics of great significance? But what are the topics when we speak about new topic, new emergence of new technology, and the latest business news? It's not the news, we have to analyze things. And I really planned out a magazine along with my partner, Dr. Ramesh Pawar, who really supported me greatly when launching this magazine, Pharma Business and Technology. I really wanted to present to the industry something unique, something different. I really wanted to be different, something new. And that is what I am thinking. And today, when I've got a circulation of 15,000, Pharma Business and Technology is ranked high, and I'm pleased to mention you that pharma business and technology is certified and we've got a audited circulation of 15,000 has been widely appreciated by the pharmaceutical industry. This would have been incomplete without the support of my whole team who have been extending support throughout my beginning and till today. When I thought about this magazine, 2 years back, I was planning to hold this kind of symposium which is becoming a reality now. I approached Mr. Devinder Pal. I saw him in a function delivering a lecture. And when he was delivering a lecture at a function, I told him that I want to hold this kind of a ceremony. He told me, and let us hold it, but what about the issues that you're going to put forth? I told him that I want to combine business and technology to 2 angles. And he told me it's going to be difficult. But I told him it's not going to be impossible also. Then he inspired me greatly. And I cannot forget the support and cooperation I derived from Mr. Devinder Pal. I reiterate my commitment, I reiterate my kind of the support is extended. And I cannot forget Mr. Ajit Singh, who has really supported me for this function. And the topics of the presentation, when I selected the topics, was really indeed very tough of the presentation. But we tried to give a combination of business and technology. So you will have in the morning session Mr. M.B. Gadd, Vice President of Marketing Woker, will be giving a lecture on biography for pharma managers. Then you will be finding a nice gentleman, quite young, Mr. Vikram Aima, Chairman of Oppo Laboratories Private Limited, from Delhi. He will be speaking about the role of the niche pharma players, challenges in the next millennium. Then after that, you will be hearing Himadri Sen, Executive Vice President at Lupin Labs, who will be speaking about business, technology and regulatory compulsions for the drug delivery system. Then after that, you find once again a young man, Dr. Anush Saxena, Director of Pharmaleaders, and the Managing Directors of Earth, Wind and Fire will be delivering a lecture for need for broader scientific interaction with customers, dynamics of prescription behavior. We split up this symposium into 2 parts, and symposium session 1 and session 2. Session 2, I have the privilege of presenting to you the presentation from the leading ancillary manufacturers and their services to the pharmaceutical industry. We'll start first with Mr. Anil Limkar, who will be giving about analytical solutions for the pharmaceutical scientists. Then Mr. Ram Purwadi, CEO Sarma Dragtech International, will be giving a lecture on pelletizing technology. Thereafter followed by Mr. Surendra Shah, Director Pharmacy Engineers, will be speaking about indigenous energy saving solutions for pharma air conditioning. Then Mr. S.P. Bagade, Chairman Chemek Equipments Private Limited, will be giving a lecture on multi-purpose reaction cum distillation unit for R&D. Then Mr. Chintul Kotari will be speaking about water for injections with multi-column distillation effects. Then Mr. C. Gulati, the Vice President Technical of Major Test Corporation, will be giving a lecture on facility monitoring system for pharma clean rooms. Thereafter followed by Mr. A.B. Kotwal of Machine Fabric, who will be speaking about terminal sterilization of sealed containers. Will be followed by Suvita Srimal, Director, Manuskrita Biogems, Buying Concepts in Biotechnology. The Indian pharma industry prepared for it. There will be a panel discussion. There will be a lot of topics coming in throughout the day. But it's my proud privilege to invite all of you to enjoy this evening. I tried to bring the symposium also along with an exhibition, so as to give a kind of platform whereas the buyer and sellers can meet. Not only they can meet, and I wanted to host in this kind of hotel, because the interaction can be much more broader, and the turnouts I think is going to be much more bigger now. Because as you close in the afternoon session, we'll be picking up a lot of people dropping in there. I cannot really forget my whole team for giving me support. I cannot forget Dr. Ramesh Pawar, Sonali Pawar, Sanjay Banerjee, Mr. Ajit Murthy, Mr. Michael Cotino, Mr. Steve Menon, Mr. Dilip Pathak, Mr. Salim Sheikh, Bharti, Silpa and Deepika, who really supported me greatly for making this function a successful one. And I hope it will be a successful one also. And finally, before I propose the vote of thanks, may I call Mr. Devinder Pal to give a memento to Mr. Homiya Kusrokon. Thank you very much.
No, I have Mr. Khusro Khan, I have heard him at least a dozen times in the last 2 years. But every time he is different, he has a new perspective, he never repeats himself, unlike many of us who masticate. Thank you, Homi, for a great job, as always. Thank you.
It's again a kind request. Please switch off your mobile phones or put them on vibrator modes during the sessions. Those who, all the guests who are present here who have not yet registered themselves as invitees or delegates or the executive members, kindly do so. We now break for tea, and that would also give us an opportunity to take a look at the exhibitors who have put up their stalls right next to where tea is being served. So we break and we'll be back in 15 minutes, exactly at 11:30. Thank you very much, sir, for coming back.
Thank you once again for being here. As you know, we have a very, very tight schedule today. We have a day full of presentations, and therefore I have to request all of us to cooperate with the speakers and the chairman to make sure that we finish the presentation in time, and the chairman has to decide whether to allow question answered or not. Our first chairman is for this morning is Mr. Ajit Singh. He would chair the sessions of Mr. Dal, Mr. Vikram Aima, and Mr. Madri San. We all know Ajit Singh, but I would still like to add something. We all know 1 + 1 makes 2, but for some geniuses it can become 11. Two brothers with their entrepreneurial skill have been in business sense, have rapidly built an empire which is envy of many in even the developing countries. And who else is, one of them is present here today, and there is Mr. Ajit Singh. I will now hand over the mic to Ajit to take care of these next 3 sessions. Thank you, Ajit.
Well, we start session 1 with an outstanding speaker, a person who I believe the pharmaceutical industry has not often heard, but who is very well known in academic and technical circles. That is Narayan Gad. Narayan has had an extensive work experience. He has worked with CERN, India, after that Franco-Indian, then Dr. Reddy's, and presently he is Vice President for Wockhardt, covering all the hierarchy of sales as well as product management. His personal interests lie in the area of strategic thinking and training, areas often neglected in our industry. Training, he says, includes not only training your group how to be creative, something that only Khushru Khan pointed out this morning, that there isn't enough innovation in our industry. And here today you're going to hear a specialist whose key area of interest and the knowledge he imparts is in this area of creativity and innovation. His other pet subject in area of strength is strategy management. And no wonder you see where Wockhardt has gone to in terms of strategy, and Dr. Reddy's. And his third area in training is human relations. 3 areas which perhaps put together are more important for this country at this stage of development than all the technology that we are trying to acquire. His major achievements so far have been in the development and growth of brands for the companies that he worked for, and equally important, the growth of the people who have worked in his organizations. His hobbies include reading, and again, besides technical books and company papers, he's a keen follower of the works of Peter Drucker. And you know, Drucker, for me, has been a Bible. Every time I have a business problem, I pick up a book by Peter Drucker. I open it on any page, and I start getting answers to my questions. And I'm so glad to know, sir, that you're a keen exponent of Peter Drucker's management and life philosophies. Peter Drucker has just written a book on managing in the 21st century. I do advise you all to buy this copy and enlighten yourselves. Narayan teaches at the Chetna College in the MMS program, and at home he has the great pleasure of having a wife who looks after him and his 2 children, a daughter of 17 and a son of 12 years old. It's a great pleasure this morning that I give you our opening speaker, Narayan Gaddis.
Organize the seminar, Ajit Singh, Gaddis, friends. Thinking of Viagra at this hour in the morning reminds me of an episode which happened during my days with Searle India, it's almost 20 years ago, where the doyen of pharma industry then, Sir Rangnekar, was the managing director. We were in a meeting like this, and somebody knocked on the door and says, "You ordered for some drinks." And Sir Rangnekar turns around and says, "We don't indulge in wishful thinking." So I hope you don't indulge in wishful thinking that there will be distribution of free Viagra samples here. Far from it. What we're looking at is how to retain organizational vitality in the 21st century. Some of it may have already been covered by Mr. Khusro Khan. Let me see how we can skip the overlaps and move on to what may be of interest. Welcome to the new millennium. Now, what's so great about the new millennium? I think any good day is good enough to look back where you are, where you have come from, and where you are going. But I guess a millennium has a certain amount of branding to it. Talking about branding, I must tell you at this point that when we talked about Viagra for pharma managers, it was actually supposed to be invitation branding. I hope the invitation branding serves some purpose. Here are some pictures of how the world spent the millennium. What you're looking at is Hong Kong, followed by Sydney, Rio de Janeiro, Times Square, New York, India, Kanyakumari. I think sometimes in a person's career, sometimes in an industry's career, we come up with some point which can be called as strategic inflection points. Strategic inflection points are the time where you review and proceed further. The millennium baby. What will this millennium baby see in the future? Yeah. The new millennium has many descriptions. It can be called the management millennium, the technology millennium, the knowledge millennium, the information millennium, the leisure millennium. One must be wondering, what are we talking about in terms of leisure? The other day I was talking to Sir Rangnekar once again, and he says that the amount of money that people will make in the next century, the kind of disposable incomes people will have, leisure will become a major component of the compensations. Leisure will become a major component of their day-to-day requirement. Yeah. Before we look at the new millennium, let's take a look at where India stands today. Population 1,000 million, growing at 1.6%. Literacy 62%. GDP per head $540. GDP growth 6%. We have had many major successes of Indians abroad, not necessarily India. The issue of looking at GDP is India happens today, at this point of time, one of the lowest GDPs in the world, while US has a GDP of $3,946 per year. And with the kind of growth that we're looking at, 6% growth in GDP, I think the only other country that we have which matches us is China. So obviously, as everybody knows, India and China become the countries of the next millennium. Look at the number of Indians who have made it big. Although India hasn't made it big as yet, but India is in the angle of making it big. Yeah. I was talking to a few people when I was asked to speak about Viagra for pharma managers. I was talking to a few people about what kind of changes are we seeing in the last century. I think you already talked about it. You already talked about it earlier. If you look at the kind of changes that we are seeing, in just 50 years, I think 20% change is in first 10, 20 years, and 80% change in the next 50 years. If this kind of change, is it possible to do a crystal ball gazing? Yeah, next one. Can you move a little faster? So what we're looking at is some kind of crystal ball gazing for the 21st century. We'll cover it in two areas. What does it hold for us in terms of management for industry? What does it hold for us in management for pharma industry in particular? Management in industry as a whole. What will be the attributes of strategy? What will value mean to us? What kind of employees are we going to have? What kind of leadership are we going to have? What will manufacturing mean to us? What will service functions mean to us? What will marketing mean to us? When we look at management in industry and looking at strategy, I think we need to be looking at sensitivity to environment, quality of life changes, and demographic shifts. When we talk about sensitivity to environment, in economic terms, we're looking at GDP growth continuing at 6.5% in the 21st century. We're looking at disappearance of poverty by 2020, for the largest consumer good market by 2020. Look at the interesting split of GDP that we're going to have. Agriculture 15%, industry 40%, services 45%. A lot of focus is going to be on employment in the service industry. Exports 2020 will move from 8% to 15%. Number of people with $10,000 income will move from 16% to 31%. That means we're going to have almost half a continent of people earning that kind of money. What kind of quality of life changes does one see? Improvement in rural infrastructure, rural literacy, rural lifestyle. We're looking at India becoming an e-nation very quickly, seamless, borderless. Today's PC penetration in India is 5 per 1,000, likely to move to 10 per 1,000. Consciousness of health and beauty is going to be a major source of business for us in the pharma industry. Today, we are a country with very good laws, thanks to the inheritance of the British, but our compliance to law is very poor. We expect that improvement compliance to law. So far, we have had luxury of making mistakes. The rapidity with which we'll move will not have luxury of making mistakes. We'll once again see the re-emergence of joint families. Tremendous focus on luxury, leisure, entertainment. Convergence of communication, entertainment, and computing technologies. Attitudes of continuous creative destruction. What I'm saying here when I say continuous attitude of continuous creative destruction is India has not changed much. It has changed a little. But one thing certainly has changed is attitude in India. Once attitude changes, people would like to have creative destruction and move ahead. There's going to be a lot of ecology consciousness. Demographic shift. What are we looking at? 50% population below 20 years, a large population above 60 years. Does this mean a big opportunity for business, in pharmaceutical industry, for geriatric medicine, for domiciliary health care, and so on and so forth? Literacy rate 75% by 2020, 500 million people will be the bottom of economic period. That means we'll have an income of about 84,000 rupees crores, which can be used by industry as a whole. This is how we're looking at background in strategy, based on which strategies can be created. What do we see as value in the commercial world? Today we're looking at profits. Tomorrow we'll continue to look at profits. I think parameters are going to change. We'll be looking at economic value addition, which would mean profit after tax minus capital employed. We'll be looking at market value addition, which means total market value minus capital employed. Today we're looking at growth. Pharma industry has been growing at about 13-14% in last year. People expect it to be growing at 9-10% in the current year and beyond. What we need to be looking at, do we have growth which have growth higher than GDP? That will be real growth, at more than 6% at least. Will we have growth higher than industry growth? Other value that will be seen by stockholders will be corporate governance in terms of their norms, the transparency, the quality of board, the possible separation of ownership and management. It has already happened in a couple of industries in our own area. It's happening in a number of other companies also, where entrepreneurs create, hand it over to management, and move on further to create more companies. Fulfillment of social responsibility is going to be a major area of consideration as part of value. What kind of employees are we going to see? I call them going to see e-employees. I will not be surprised if in the very next few years, if a factory worker has a PC in the house by virtue of disposable income. So naturally, he is an e-employee.com. Peter Drucker talked about knowledge workers earlier. I think we'll shift from knowledge workers to e-employees. When we have e-employees, what will he ask for? He'll ask for the company to identify his unique capabilities through continuous evaluation. We'll have a situation where intellectual maturity will be faster than the physical age. E-employees will be conscious of the fact that creation of wealth is the only security, not employment alone. They'll realize that rewards will not come from automatic wage revision. Probably they'll ask for leisure and stock options. E-employees will possibly have multiple careers. People will be called associates, not employees. I believe, this is my reading again from Peter Drucker, if you have an employee, you look down, you hand over, and he kind of gives you obedience. When you have associates, you get cooperation. If you have that kind of e-employees, what kind of people management will we have? People, their knowledge and competence will be the surest form of competitive advantages. Technology will not be competitive advantage. Patents may also not be a major competitive advantage, because even if I have a patented molecule today, somebody can come with a slightly modified molecule that will not give you a long product life cycle. But people will definitely give you a major competitive advantage. If people is a major competitive advantage, the challenge will remain attracting, managing, nurturing best of talent, which can be made possible by organizational ambience, systems to unleash potential, reward recognition mechanisms. People will not fix in boxes, hierarchies, and rigid structures. I think we're already seeing it happening now, that organizational structures are going to be a little more loose-ended than tight as in the past. This is the kind of e-employees we're going to have. What will be the qualities of leaders and leaderships? Earlier we used to talk about managing change. Have you now seen that in the last few years, there have been no seminars held on how do we manage change? I think that attitudes are shifting so fast and change has become such a big normal norm of life that today we're talking about not managing change, but leading change. Leaders will need to manage contradictions, not conflict. We'll have healthy conflicts all the time, but contradictions are need to be managed. What will be the contradictions, for example? Long-term versus short-term. Today, a corporate executive's lifespan could be 5-7 years in the majority of cases. What does he do? How does he manage his short-term for this company vis-a-vis the long-term? How will he manage change versus vis-a-vis continuity? How will leaders create and percolate vision? Leaders will have the major task of influencing behavior through communication, role modeling, rewards. The growth drivers of a leader will be like a coach, like a team member, a delegator, a mentor, or a champion. A number of organizations today are employing what may be called as chief knowledge manager. With the rapidity of change that we have, and knowledge doubling itself every 5 years, we need to have what is called as a knowledge manager rather than a training manager. A knowledge manager will capture what's happening in the company in terms of its strengths, in terms of its weaknesses, in terms of its failures, and provide SOPs to make sure that knowledge of every employee in the company is state of art. Leaders will not sit back, they'll also need to dirty their hands whenever required. When leaders enunciate strategies, I'm reading out from here about what the Coke chairman said to his people about leadership in terms of enunciating vision for a company. One of the most important requirements of vision creation and percolation is how easily and how simply is it done. This is what Robert Guzzello said. On this earth of 6 million people, 64 ounces of fluids are drunk per day, of which only 2 ounces are coke. When you make a vision statement like that, I guess everybody understands what needs to be done with coke. What footsteps shall we follow? The footsteps that we'll follow will be technical brains of Bill Gates, situational management of Jack Welch. Our own Indian equivalents will be Narayan Murthy and Dhirubhai Ambani, where we have information and situational management. When we're looking at other functional areas, I think we'll be moving from manufacturing to value factoring. Can you add value? If you can, manufacture. If you can't add value, go to an outsourcing agency. Staff function. The first objective would be to see, the first objective would be to see if you can outsource. If you can't outsource staff function, widen geographic net. Medical transcription is a very major example of widen geographic net. GE of the US has one of the major administrative offices in Delhi because of time differences, and we are able to get outsourcing from Delhi for GE. Next. Management in general in industry. What will be the attributes of marketing that will take place in terms of brand management, in terms of customer management, in terms of sales and distribution. Brand management. Innovation will continue. Shorter product life cycles one has to live with. A new word that I have found is unique strategic personality. USP is no longer invalid. Unique selling proposition moves to unique strategic personality. Unique strategic personality by capturing customer insight. Especially we in pharmaceuticals, I believe, are not capturing enough customer insight. For example, take a company like Procter & Gamble. Even the chief executive is required to visit houses to see a housewife washing clothes, capture some insight from there, and come back and work on strategies. We in pharmaceuticals are not doing this enough. I think we need to do that a little more. You need to move from benefits, which are tangible, to intangible benefits like feelings, emotions, and relationships in product management. Moving from product performance to total brand experience. Can brand management provide a situation where a person experiences a brand in its totality? Brand management continued. Brand management will work or will need to work as entertainment companies. The kind of customer unfaithfulness that we have today, how can we make customers faithful or loyal? If you can entertain them, if you can provide them a memory. That's how brand management will happen. We need to work as entertainment companies. Brand management will need to look at alliances even with competition to get better reach. Brand alliances will continue, umbrella brands will continue, value brand equity will continue. Preventing equity dilution. As companies get older, one needs to look at how do we prevent equity dilution. We have two classical examples in the consumer products industry. One is Colgate, a very major brand, diluted equity today. A current brand like Coke has not been able to capture enough dilution in India. I call it equity dilution in India. We'll move from management information system to brand information system. Move fast. It's almost like a hold up. Except that I'm holding a Viagra, not a gun.
This is, I suppose, what they mean when they say that Viagra gives you great repeat performance.
Lasting value.
Okay, come back. Go back. Yeah, brand management summary. 3 major responsibilities. Choose your customer carefully, narrow your focus, dominate your market. Yeah. What will be the key elements of customer management? What kind of customers shall we have? We'll have more and more exacting customers. We'll have customers who will not only have product needs, but will have aspirational needs. They'll ask for global quality at Indian prices. They'll value relationships. We need to do psychographic segmentation, and we need to contend with low loyalties. Customer management conclusion would be move from customer satisfaction to delight to involvement to intimacy. I don't think we have a choice. Sales and distribution will be a major challenge of the 21st century. People say that we'll have stores and supermarkets, perhaps applicable to us. We'll have multiple channels. E-grocer. I wonder whether e-commerce will become a major source of business in India, because we have always had e-grocers available at a telephone call away to you. Perhaps not on the computer, but the telephone. We'll have collaborated distribution and warehousing. Look at a situation where even in pharmaceuticals, where we have areas demarcated where all of us can have our own C&F go-downs, where all of us can have joint movement of our goods from our own warehousing to our C&F agencies outside, where we have our own syndicated cold chains. I see that as a possible happening. There will be more and more contracted field force operations, both for new product launches, contract field force operations for managing tail-end brands which you don't have time to manage. Consider this. There are 47,000 hearts in India operating every year. They generate 875 crores of rupees. There are 25,000 mailers generating 350 crores of rupees. They are still not utilized by us very carefully. This will be the benchmark for sales and distribution. Hindustan Lever by 2002 expects 30 C&F agents, 10,000 distribution stockists, 5 lakh retail outlets. Can we learn something from there? While we look at what can happen in the future, let's take a quick look at what happens to Fortune 500 companies. Do they automatically step into the next millennium? History says no. 1970 to 1980, 500 companies. By 1983, 1/3 companies had dropped out of sight. By 1990, 300 vanished. Remaining 200 had lost ranks. Proves beyond doubt that corporate mortality is 40 to 50 years. In this background, Indian pharma industry is 40, 50 years old. Next one. My friend Dr. Oak, who works with me, is a great believer in Confucius. He teaches a lot of Chinese proverbs and Chinese stories. Tomorrow we'll have the surviving organization as a learning organization. Chinese characters for business, both together, form business. And when you split them, it forms for life, stroke, birth, and meaning. Working together should be a deep source of life meaning. Anything else is just a job. I think we need to remember that. Let's quickly look at application of this into pharmaceutical industry. What will be the Indian pharmaceutical scenario? What is the Indian pharmaceutical scenario today? What will happen tomorrow? Tomorrow we'll probably have less than 20 large companies and very large number of regional players. Companies' growth will be organic or acquisitive or through globalization. I expected no major new entrants will come into pharma industry. Tatas, Birlas, Dalmias have all come and filled. What happened to doctors? They become more and more demanding, not necessarily returning your inputs. They look at more and more knowledge support. They look at holistic life support. They look at lifetime relationships with companies. They'll probably operate mobile clinics, especially for the elderly. But our doctors may look at alternative medicine for chronic diseases. Patients will see return of diseases like malaria. Patients will ask for quality of life. They will not say, I'll quit smoking, I'll quit drinking, give me a drug. They'll say, I'll continue to smoke, I'll continue to drink, give me a drug despite that. Health insurance will continue to be a very major source of business for industry. Today we are seeing patients coming with printouts to doctors from the net. This is my disease, this is the prognosis, this is what the net says, what do you have to say? What do doctors need to do? E-doctors. They need to be absolutely abreast as of yesterday. What will be the government role? I suspect government will play more of a watchdog role or a legislator role. We already seen a possibility of Ministry of Pharmaceuticals. There will be more encouragement to research. Outside bodies will become very relevant to us in terms of research, CROs. There will be an emergence of strong and growing OTC brands, syndicate distribution warehousing organizations, retail chains. Next. I keep that alive. What's happened to research and development in pharma industry? Up to 80s, we basically had massive basic research. In the 90s, we moved on to next one. Mergers, acquisition, re-engineering, low-risk areas. 2000, we will see back to basic research, narrow disease segments, and new technologies like drug deliveries, etc. Unlike the previous century, 21st century belongs to pure play. I deliberately stress this point because pharma industry, if you see in the international sector and in the Indian sector, it used to be in bioagro, in veterinary, even in film sometimes, and pharmaceuticals. You will see diverging of all these businesses, and pharma will become pure play business. You're already seeing it happening. It will continue to happen more and more. R&D will be holistic, multifunctional, multidisciplinary research. It will involve medicinal chemistry, genetics, genomics, biochemistry, medical electronics. Major area of research will be diagnostics, lifestyle diseases, quality of life, lifespan enhancement. For example, if you combine all these three, potential value served pipeline today is 7 times higher than R&D investment, unlike other companies. By 2020, research will yield 20% baseline as of now, 40% new drug delivery, and 40% in genomics. Are we prepared for it as of now in India? Pharma marketing, how will it shift? How will it continue? What will happen to sales management related areas? We'll have reduced hierarchies. We had seen in the around the 80s that we used to have multi-layer of sales hierarchies. Before we reached national sales manager, probably we had 4 hierarchies. It won't happen anymore. There will be small focus teams, which is what Glaxo has done today. Glaxo has split themselves into 7 teams to get more focus. There will probably have flexi-time salespersons. We'll definitely have contract field force. I expect in the next 5-10 years, we'll not have reps and managers sending reports to you on paper. We'll have electronic reporting. With all the information technology moving in, I think we'll have pharma managers who will be more accountable, more responsible. They develop distinctive capabilities. HR will continue to remain a major area of requirement for pharma industry because of unionization. I suspect that we'll have either contract HR support or regional HR support, which is very much required for us. We'll have empowered teams because of this. So that's what's happened in sales management. What will happen in marketing related areas in pharmaceuticals? We will get learning from OTC industry. We'll work towards more and more customer insight. We'll have more customer information and monitoring. We'll have collaborative marketing. We'll have multimedia or integrated marketing. Earlier we used to talk about marketing mix. I think today we need to talk about multimedia or integrated marketing. We'll have more customer involvement in our decision making. I suspect a lot of doctors will get involved in decision making in companies. We have not done this much so far, but I think to create memories for our brands, we'll have more and more event-based marketing. We'll have marketing which involves personal validation to doctors. For example, in the next couple of years itself, I see industry doing creativity workshop for doctors as part of personal validation. On the whole, we'll have a situation where everybody will have distinctive capabilities. Last minute? Yep. Audit and research base will continue. Today we see CMARC used for probably 20-30%. We'll have more and more usage of that. We'll have focused positioning. We'll have definitely more and more direct-to-consumer and direct-to-patient communication. What will be required in the future is somebody who can say this. I'll challenge assumptions, especially my own. I'll leave the guesswork to others. I'll identify the cause, not just the effect. I'll leave no room for wrong. I'll create maps. I'll bind to nothing. I'll call a mirage a mirage. These are 2 samples of Viagra. Thank you very much.
Okay. And our next speaker needs to leave before lunch. So I'd like to introduce the next speaker, go on with that session, and then check out questions and answers.
Before we
एक मिनट विश्वास तिकडे
Mr. Gadd was talking, I was reminded of a few things. One, that e-commerce business, as the Fortune 500 company's CEO says, that by the end of this year, they expect 45% of their business could be e-commerce business. It sounds incredible number. And by the year 2002, it is expected to mount to $1.5 trillion business, e-commerce business. I think Mr. Gadd has very nicely focused that even if we're on the right track, we'll get run over unless we keep moving. Thank you very much. Ajit, we will have the next speaker.
Well, let me just put in my 2 bits about Mr. Gadd and the company he works for, Wockhardt. A company whose incredible rise from a small virtual tin shed in Worli to a major force in the pharmaceutical industry in India, who's worldwide, I have watched with very great pleasure. Some years ago, Habib Khurakiwala, when he was about to make his next jump and take Wockhardt international, thought it would be politically and economically wise to go to the Harvard Business School and get a shot of Viagra, intellectual Viagra. And he did this, and it's always interested me, pre-HBS and post-HBS. What difference does it make to a human being in terms of the way that he runs his company? And checking this out with people who work in Wockhardt and then with Habib, this is the conclusion I reached, that Habib, before Harvard Business School, was a far-sighted, soft and firm manager. Post-Harvard Business School, Habib Khurakiwala is a firm, far-sighted and tough manager. And I think what we saw with Mr. Gadd is that Habib has now accumulated around him some of the best professionals in the country, because it's only when the going gets tough that the tough get going. Thank you very much, Martin.
With your permission, we have to reschedule a little bit because we're running late. Himadri Sen, I hope you have no problem if we have your session a little bit later. Okay.
Excellent.
So, very good. So then we will start with, yes, Mr. Tapan Ray would be the next chairman. Thank you, sir. Well, I think everybody knows Mr. Tapan Ray, so I'm not going to introduce him to you. We all know that Mr. Tapan Ray is now the managing director of Abbott Laboratories, and Abbott Laboratories has always been an intriguing company, making tremendous strides without really doing, without really putting too much money. I don't know how they ever manage it, but they apparently are doing very well. And after Mr. Tapan Ray has taken over, I think the company has had a major jump, and I think they are now changing their plan, and they are going to be doing more things here. Over to you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the very outset, I thank the organizers for inviting me to chair this session in front of these august audience. You have had a very stimulating presentation. But on the lighter vein, let me tell you that we were talking about Viagra. And we were associating that product with vitality. I think Pfizer will be very happy to know that. But Viagra is for the vitality only for one part of the organ. And I don't know if one part of the organ doesn't work well, one will lose the vitality or not. Before I present the distinguished young speaker, I would like to share some of the thoughts of some management pundits. We have seen a brilliant presentation of where we can go.